gentlemen, and welcome back to Tech Showdown. My name is Kevin, this is my co-host Teddy, and today we're checking out two AMD GPUs. It's going to be the little RX460, this is the Gigabyte Windforce model, and that's going to be going up against the RX470, and this is the MSI Gaming X model. So you might be thinking, well, this is a little bit unfair, and in a lot of ways it is. There's a big price discrepancy between these two graphics cards. However, I still wanted to compare them, mainly looking at the value for money type thing. There is big price difference between them, but on the same note, does that mean that the little 460, even though it costs less, I mean, if it still puts up solid frames, does it actually work out being better value in terms for your performance per dollar than the 470? And that's basically what this video was to be about, and also show the performance difference between the two. So let's jump right into it then with the specs. So the RX460 is running the 14nm Polaris 11 GPU, and the 470 is running the Polaris 10 GPU. That means on the little 460 you're getting 896 stream processors versus the 2048 on the 470, so big difference there. The 460 is coming with 14 compute units versus the 32 on the 470. There's a 75 watt TDP on the 460 compared to the 120 watt TDP on the 470. That's why the 460 doesn't need a power adapter with it. Everything just goes through the PCI slot. Now, boost speed wise, so they actually both boosted up to the same speed, which was quite remarkable. So they both went up to 1212 megahertz, so you'll see clock for clock they're exactly the same, so that'll really show off the difference between these two GPUs. Now, memory wise, so the 460 is the 4GB model, so that means 4 gigabytes of GDDR5 memory at 7000 megahertz on a 128-bit bus. And the 470 is an 8GB model, which means 8 gigs of GDDR5 memory at 6700 megahertz in its OC mode on a 256-bit bus. So quite a big discrepancy there between these two graphics cards in terms of specs. Now let's go over the coolers, and we'll start with the 470 then. So this is the Twin Frozer. What are they up to now? Twin Frozer 4 cooler. So it's coming with their, or Twin Frozer 5, I actually can't remember. I've been doing so many of these MSI graphics cards. Anyways, it comes with their Torx fans. This all lights up, which is quite cool as well. The MSI logo on the side lights up. Coming with their big, broad aluminium heatsink and aluminium heat pipes there. Looks really good. The no backplate on this, which is a little bit disappointing, but it's still nice black PCB, so that looks pretty good. And most of the time these MSI coolers do a pretty damn good job, so it'll be interesting to see how this one does later on in this showdown when we talk about heat and noise. Now the 460 on the other hand runs the little, what I call the 2X Windforce cooler. So it's just got the little fans here. This will, very small cards, so this will be able to fit in anything, which is really, really good. No heat pipes there. It's basically just one huge heat sink, aluminium heat sink, seated right on the GPU die. So that's quite cool as well. And yeah, just a nice small little card here. Of course, this has a lower TDP, so it doesn't need to be as beefy as the 470 there. Now, without further ado then, let's get into the benchmarks. So I ran all my standard stuff with these cards. I thought it would be quite interesting to see the difference between them. Obviously, just judging by the specs, the 470 is going to completely dominate. Now, I didn't go above 1440p in these tests. It was just 1080p and 1440p because that would be well beyond the 460, and it's sort of getting a bit beyond the 470 as well. I did do the 3D Mark test still at 4K just to give you a taste, but you'll see, with how low the results came out, that it's not really ideal for these graphics cards. So all the rest of them were just done at 1080p and 1440p, which are more appropriate for these graphics cards. So without further ado, let's jump into the benchmarks. So as you can see, big win there for the 470. It almost doubles the 460 in terms of performance, which makes sense given that the specs are pretty much double that of the 460. So it's quite consistent there actually. But yeah, big win there for the 470. Pretty much what we expected. Good frames at 1080p and all the benchmarks usually over 60 FPS, which is where you want to be. So yeah, very solid for 1080p on the 470, and all those games will run on their highest presets. The 460 does struggle a little bit. I mean, if you're a person going to be gaming at 1080p and you don't mind just being over 30 frames a second, or if you're a person that maybe has a 30 hertz monitor or something like that, then yeah, it'll do you just fine. But if you're wanting to go above 60 FPS, you're probably going to need to turn down those presets to like a high or a medium, or maybe you're going to have to play around the filters or something like that to get it up over 60 FPS average in a lot of your games. Now let's move on to noise and temperatures then, because performance is not everything. If your GPU is like a hairdryer and it's putting out about as much heat as a hairdryer, that's not really ideal. So yeah, this one was actually very close, which surprised me actually, given that the Polaris 11 GPU and the 460 in general has a much lower TDP, so you would imagine it would be a much cooler running GPU, albeit it is on a much smaller cooler here. So for this one, I did it in the Unigine Valley benchmark on the Extreme HD preset. Now the Gigabyte 460 here went up to 62 degrees Celsius at 35% fan speed, and the MSI RX470 went up to 65 degrees Celsius at 19% fan speed. So very interesting there. It's actually quite close. There's only 3 degrees in it. However, that little Gigabyte card was actually at a significantly higher fan speed. So very interesting. I would pretty much call that a tie, because if you moved the fan speed up on this MSI cooler, it would probably have gone down to about 62 degrees Celsius, maybe even a little bit lower. So yeah, quite interesting there. I would call it a tie, and it just shows how good this MSI Gaming X cooler is, the twin frozen cooler here. It does an awesome job cooling this Polaris 10 GPU. Now let's talk about noise. So again, this was done in the Unigine Valley benchmark. I'll let you guys judge for yourself, but I will say after personally using both these cards that both of them are extremely quiet. You probably won't even be able to hear the fans turning over my system fans and radiator fans going in my rig. But yeah, they're extremely quiet. You'll probably never hear them if you're using these and you have a nice sound dampening in your case and good airflow. So yeah, very good in terms of noise. But I'll let you guys judge for yourself. So let's do the 470 first, and then after that we'll do the 460. So yeah, it shows how quiet they are. That was done in the Valley benchmark on the Extreme HD preset at the exact same time in that benchmark to give you guys the most fair comparison possible. So yeah, very quiet. You're not going to be having any trouble at all in terms of noise with these graphics cards. Which brings us now to the conclusion, and we got to go over the value for money aspect with these graphics cards. So for that, we have to add all the benchmarks together to get our average FPS. And for the little Gigabyte RX460 here, it got an average FPS of 22.9. So that's still somewhat decent. And with a price over at Playtech of 259 New Zealand dollars, that means you get, or you're getting, it's costing you, I should say, $11.17 per frame. So that's pretty decent there, value for money wise anyways. And then we have to compare it to the MSI Gaming X 470. So the average FPS is significantly higher. When we add it all together, it gets an average FPS of 45.5 frames a second. And with a price over at Playtech for this Gaming X model, the 8GB model, of 469 New Zealand dollars, that means when you add it all up, it's costing you $10.30 per frame. So much better value for money on the MSI RX470 over the little 460. So very interesting there, and it backs up what I've been telling you guys for a very long time now, that often it's better to save up your money a bit more in terms of, you know, getting a better card for your money. It's not always the cheapest option. Those mid-tier cards like the 470 here, the 480 and the 1060 usually are very, very good in terms of the amount of performance they give you for their cost. And that's what you really need to take away from this, is that, you know, oftentimes you will be better saving up your money a bit longer and investing in one of the mid-tier cards rather than an entry-level card if you're someone very concerned with value for money. Now, all that aside, in terms of performance, the 470 head is an excellent choice for 1080p gaming. You're going to be just fine gaming on this with, in most games, at 1080p on the highest preset, you should be just fine. Maybe in certain high requirement games, you may need to turn down some of the filters to get a smooth 60 FPS plus gameplay, but for the most part, it should do you at 1080p very, very nicely. Now, the 460, on the other hand, still has its place in the market, especially for those of you out there maybe running integrated graphics and you're wanting to jump up to a discrete graphics card. It'll do you very well for that. However, at 1080p, you're probably not going to be able to run it on the highest preset at you know, over 60 FPS. You're probably going to need to drop it down to medium setting, or you may have to drop down the resolution. So it's definitely going to be more of an entry-level alternative, but it should still get you by for all your gaming needs nicely. You're just not going to be able to be maxing out those games at 1080p and getting a solid 60 FPS. If you're fine at 30 FPS, then maybe it'll do you all right. But yeah, for the most part, you're probably going to need to be turning down your settings to be gaming on this graphics card, which is to be expected because this is an entry-level GPU. Now, I thank you all for watching this video. Please subscribe to Tech Showdown if you haven't already, and like the video. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.